Welcome everyone to the Real Estate Experience Podcast. As always, super excited to have you on. I had a little bit of caffeine in my system, so that on top of my already energeticness, but you guys know the next steps. Those of you who are on the YouTube, hit that subscribe button in addition to notification bell. We're on here. The Real Estate Experience is I do experience shares and also have others, multifamily syndicators, operators who provide their experience shares of what ultimately their trials, tribulations, the successes. And today we have Kyle Mitchell on. Welcome to the show.
Sterling, thank you for having me on. I've also had a lot of coffee, so this should be an exciting conversation.
All right, let's roll. All right, so Kyle Mitchell focuses primarily on multifamily syndication. He is the co-founder of ABT Capital Group with the assets under management valuation just over 17 million, and is the host of the weekly podcast. If you haven't already catch that, you definitely want to listen into that. Passive income through multifamily real estate. And last but not least, he is a avid golfer, or attempted to take that to the next level, but decided real estate was the way to go. So yeah, Kyle, could you give everyone your 5% in terms of your background that's ultimately shaped you to who you are now today, and how you were able to get into real estate?
Yeah, awesome. Thanks again for having me on, Sterling. My 5% really was in golf, actually. I started playing golf when I was a kid, got hooked on it, played all throughout high school, and really shaped me into the person I am now. I actually got a job with them in high school, and the company was named American Golf, and I actually worked for them for about 20 years total. And it shaped me into a manager, managing people, an operator, and that's what got me into real estate and really where I am now as a multifamily operator.
Got it. And what was that? Because you're in the golfing industry, and that's probably not the technical term to actually call it, but why real estate? Was it a book or some infomercial? What was that?
Yeah, I think it was two things. Number one, I looked at my 401k, 15 years in, and I thought to myself, man, I'm really going to be working until I'm 60 or 70, and that's just not something I wanted to do. And I was trying to buy single family homes when I first got started in real estate, and it was difficult to scale. So, the combination of me wanting to leave my full-time job to pursue a career where I can live the life that I want, combined with trying to find something other than single family homes to scale, led me to multifamily.
Got it. And when you were making that transition, was there any limiting beliefs, such as, hey, you got to have a large amount of cash? What did you experience, and how ultimately did you overcome that?
Yeah, so many limiting beliefs when I first got started. I mean, when I first got started in 2010 investing in single family homes, I even had a limiting belief that I can have a portfolio of single family homes. You think landlord, you think high net worth individuals, rich guys. And so even that was a struggle to get over. But then, I started buying single family homes, and I got up to 10 pretty quickly. And then I saw multifamily, and I said, there's no way I can buy an apartment. And what really helped me with my limiting beliefs was just education, right? So just educating myself, reading books, listening to podcasts, being around other people that also do it. And very soon you find out that, hey, there is a way to get this done. It's really about building a team, but we can get into that later. But, you just have to get over the limiting beliefs, because no matter what you're trying to accomplish, you can do it with the right team.
Got it. And what did you also experience that, let's say that person that's also doing it, if that person could do it, why the heck can I not do it? Did you also run into that?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, at first I wasn't around those people, so it did take some education. But when you're hanging around these meetups and these seminars, and you're hearing these people's story, a lot of people do this while they still have a W-2 job. So imagine if you go full time, which is what I ended up doing. You certainly can accomplish it, and you can accomplish it much quicker than you would anticipate.
Got it. And so with that is, what common myth, or would you see that ultimately stop people for getting over that hump of those limiting beliefs that you ended up running into?
Yeah, I'm not experienced enough, or, I don't have the money to get started. The thing I love about multifamily is that there's so many different pieces of the pie, right? And you don't have to bring the whole pie to the table. You just need to bring one slice. And so you don't have to be an expert in all of multifamily. You just have to learn what your niche is, what you're good at, what you enjoy doing, and then bring that to the table to a team that is looking for that piece. And so, there's a lot of hard work in this industry for sure. A lot of it is upfront due diligence and
There's
upfront
hard
hard
work in this
work.
industry, Kyle.
Yeah, you're kidding me, right?
It's not like the TV
Um,
where it's just after the phase, they've made all this profit. It's actual work.
exactly. But it's doable. There's definitely limiting beliefs. And I think that's what holds back a lot of people in getting started in really any type of business venture, is just the limiting beliefs.
Got it. And let's dig a little bit into that first. Let's say when you transition from single family to multifamily, is how did that phase work? Is when you were doing the education, you were reading books, listening to podcasts. Do you have some in terms of your go-to sources when you're educating yourself?
Yeah, so the way I did it was I found an online course first. I purchased that online course, went through it about 3 weeks, and it really took me from just understanding rentals to what the apartment business really is. And so I highly suggest buying some type of course. It wasn't very expensive at that point, so we did that. Then we moved into one-on-one coaching, was a little bit more expensive, but in my mind, I wanted a career change, and I had been saving up money for several years, and so I may have been more prepared than someone that just came across multifamily at first. But also on my drive to work, I drove 45 minutes each way. So I'm in the car for an hour and a half. I listen to my podcast on 2 to 2.5 speed, depending on what it is.
You listen to your own podcast?
No, I'm sorry.
I get what you're saying.
When I first started out, I did because I wanted to make sure it sounded okay. But no, I don't do it for my education. I get that when I'm interviewing. But yeah, so tons of knowledge through podcasts, hours and hours of podcasts a week, hours and hours of audiobooks, and then going to networking events is really where I expanded my network and my education, because I was around people who were actually doing it. And then that's how I found my partners too. And so really networking and getting out there and expanding that. And, when I first started, I was really an introvert. I think a lot of people who know me now would say the opposite, but you've just got to get out of your comfort zone, and you've got to hang out with people who are doing what you want to be doing.
Gosh, I love that, especially when you talk about getting out of your comfort zone and really pushing yourself out there. And that's how you were able to find your partners, is in terms of an introvert. And then, is it a why that ultimately drove you to be able to push out of your comfort zone? Because most people use the excuse, I'm an introvert, I'm just not going to go that path. What was it that ultimately pushed you through?
Yeah, I had the support of at that time my girlfriend. She's now my wife, but believe it or not, I just could not do it without her. And so she started the meetup with us. We started a meetup. She did that with me. I wanted to start a podcast. She started that with me. So it was really her support that did it for me. But my why was just like I said earlier. I looked at my 401k. I said, Tim Ferriss has this fear setting exercise, and I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but he basically says, take the scariest thing that can happen by, you going after your dreams and goals, and what's the worst that can happen. And in my situation, the worst that can happen is I would have to go back and get another W-2 job. And so if that's the worst that can happen, why not go after my dreams and really live the life that I want to live with the flexibility? And, I'm the type that wants to travel and be able to work from anywhere in the world, which a lot of people I think have that dream, but I don't think in their head that it can really happen. But that fear setting goal put me over the hump. It was huge for me. And then I had the support of my now wife that was there every step of the way. And those kind of drove me to say, hey, you know what? I want to give myself the opportunity to live the life that I want to live.
Awesome. Love that. And I would say Tim Ferriss is one person that really unlocked for me. So this is a whole nother story in itself, but most people know it is. I attempted a Guinness World Record, which was the fastest fireman carry mile, where I carried someone of equivalent weight around a track for a mile. And I absolutely bombed it. But through that experience, it was a journey, a year and a half of training. I overcame so many obstacles, but it was just one of those things that I put out there to push my comfort zone. And it was one of those, what's the worst that could happen, which I dropped the person and the attempt was over. But from that, I was able to unlock one of my limiting beliefs, which was the fear of failure. Fear of failure. I always thought that was so huge. And so, yeah, Tim Ferriss has been someone that's been very impactful for me.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
And so when you made that transition from single family to now the multifamily, what was that first deal? Was it how many units? Was it friends and family? Could you go a little bit into that in terms of the
Yeah, sure.
structure?
So I actually did not get my first deal until after I left my W-2 job. And I don't suggest that for other people, but for me, I had been planning some type of career change, which is the reason why we did it. We were very close. And then also the job function that I wanted within multifamily was to be a lead sponsor. So someone that manages the deal. And for someone that's going to be an operator of a deal, I really do think you should do it full time. If you have a W-2 job and it's kind of your side gig, you're controlling other people's money. There's a lot at risk there. And so I just didn't want to be in that situation. So 2 months after I left my job, we found our first deal. It was a 42 unit property in Tucson, Arizona. So I think it was a perfect size for our first deal. We raised money for it. We syndicated it because that's the model we wanted to learn.
Friends and
And
family, outside investors, or
mainly friends and family. I would say we did get some people from our meetup as well, because we had been doing
nice.
our meetup for over a year at that point. And so I would say 50-50 between friends and family and people that we helped along the way for our meetup.
Got it. And when you made that, was it that transition, was it burn the bridges or did you have reserves, meaning 8 to 10 or a year in terms of expenses? How did that look like for you when you made that pivot?
Yeah, so I pretty much burned the bridges in the sense that I was actually up for promotion. They had given it to me. I accepted
Wow.
it. And then a couple days later, I said, you know what, if I accept this, I'm never going to pursue my dreams.
Wow.
And
And you
so,
knew that you had the
yeah,
awareness. Wow.
I felt really bad for accepting it because I just knew I wasn't going to be there for much longer, right? So I actually went back to my boss, told him I'm not going to accept it. At that point, he basically said, "You're giving me the writing on the wall," right? And so, a couple months later, I had left my job. Now, could I go back? Maybe, but it's so far in the rearview mirror now. As far as like savings, yeah, I had 2 years plus of savings built up.
Okay.
I had some cash flow from the single family homes as well. So, it's not something that happened overnight. I had been looking for an alternative career path for 2 or 3 years. So I had been saving up that entire time. And as soon as I found multifamily, that's the other thing. I had already been a single family home investor for 6 years. And it took me 2 more years to find multifamily. And it was a mindset thing. If I would have started in multifamily in 13, 14, 15, 16, who knows where we would be, but I'd be in a
Oh
much better
gosh, yeah,
position, right?
that was one of the, what do you call that, golden ages in terms
Yep.
of buying.
Yeah, for sure. So it did take me a while, but yeah, I planned it out. So it wasn't like I burned the bridges right off the bat. It was something that I had planned and built up and made sure I have enough reserves.
Got it. And so on that first deal, I would love to get your insights or lessons that were learned. I know, of course, you do all the necessary research and education. From that, what were things, let's say, two top lessons from that first deal that you experienced that you're like, I didn't even know about that, but you were able to take those lessons and then learn from them?
Yeah, most of the lessons learned was either having a team built in advance or you don't know what you don't know on the lending side of it. So I'll talk about the team first. We tried to take this deal down between my wife and I and my parents who were going to sign on the loan. They have nothing to do with multifamily. They just had the net worth and liquidity. So we're going to utilize that for the deal and do it ourselves. And I do have an extensive background in management and operations. So I was confident in my ability, but I would say that you should focus more on getting that first deal done. Don't worry how much you're going to make and get the right team around you, because the team we ended up going with led us into our second deal, which was a $15 million deal. Same
Team like
partnerships on
management
that one.
team or
No, just capital raising, asset management, getting the deal done. They're all on the sponsorship team on the GP side.
got
And
it.
so if I would have done that sooner, it would have been a less stressful close. We literally closed at the last second, at the last hour type of thing. We had to switch lenders last minute. So it was kind of a mess. And what ties in with that is that knowing that the lender controls the deal, you're borrowing 70 to 80% from the lender. If they want to pull out, they can do it at any time. And so, as much communication as possible is really important with them. I tried to switch from my parents being the general partners to our current partners. And I was using a Freddie Mac loan, and they told me that we had already been underwritten, and so they weren't going to go back and underwrite more partners. So we couldn't do that. And
Wow.
so at that point, we would have been able to raise all the money ourselves, but it was very close. And I didn't want to get in a situation where on our first deal, we weren't able to raise all the capital needed to execute our business plan. So we
Mhm.
switched over to make sure that we can get that done. So we had to actually move lenders completely. We went from Freddie Mac to Fannie Mae. ended up getting a better discount, a better interest rate, but it wasn't planned that way, you know? So lesson learned is just is have the team built before the deal is under contract, and, you know, just be as transparent and as open as possible and get things in writing with the lender.
Got it. Love it. And those of you, there was absolute bombs that were dropped during that. You definitely want to take notes and having that team in place beforehand. And the same thing with, I would say, just a personal experience here. You could attest to this too, possibly, is having the money in place too. That way, let's say you get through your due diligence, there's no red flags. Then you start to raise money versus some people, they don't have that money or those relationships and they get the deal under contract. Then they start to try and raise money. What's your philosophy on, I believe it's the quote that mentions, you find a good deal, the money will follow. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't believe that really, because it depends on your track record as a sponsor, right? If you have a
Agreed.
great track record and you've been in the game for 5, 10 years, yeah, maybe that's true. If you're just starting out, no, you know, just like they say, always be closing, you always have to be raising capital. I mean, you have to be. So from the day we started in multifamily, we started building our investor list, and we built that for 18 months until we closed our first deal. And so if we hadn't been building that for 18 months, we'd have been dead in the water. You know, raising capital is completely different than managing apartments, and it's a completely different industry. And just because someone says that they're interested in investing in your next deal does not mean they're going to, does not mean the timing is right, does not mean that it's the right deal. I always say you get a peek behind the curtains of people's lives when you're raising capital, because they could be having a baby. They could be, you know, there could be a death in the family. There could be on vacation. They may need liquidity because they're buying another rental property. They may have invested in 2 other properties in the last month and just their liquid cash is gone. So, you know, it's a really difficult industry, and you have to understand that not just because someone says okay does not mean they're actually going to contribute towards that next deal. So we always like to use kind of a 50%, 30 to 50% rule, where if you have 2 million in commitments, you're only going to raise about 30 to 50% of that.
Gosh, and I love that you said that. I was just thinking that my eyes are watering now that you mentioned that. It's the same thing as getting those soft commitments beforehand, but understand if, yeah, let's say you got $2 million is what we tend to do at my company is raise over or have soft commitments over what our normal equity raise is, just due to exactly what you mentioned.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, if you have to raise 2 million and you only have 2 million in soft commitments, you're going to run into some issues. You know, you need a lot more than that to get the deal closed.
Yeah, and so on that first one, was it a simple, was it a straight equity split, preferred return, debt? How did you settle on what structure to provide?
Yeah, on that one, you know, just from the training that we had from our coaching, we did a 6 pref 80-20 split. We're now at an 8 pref 70-30 split. But really it was more giving to the investors on that first one as far as the split was concerned, because it was our first deal. So that's what made most sense for that deal.
Got it. And with that, I mean, it's one of those things, and what I've experienced too is that the investors that you have tend to keep reinvesting and to give them as much as you can to where it makes sense to them to keep reinvesting versus, well, instead of giving them 80-20, there's plenty of meat on the bone or something along those lines. Let me give them 60% and I will get 40%. So love that you go into that. And in terms of when you're finding investors, I want to go into the personal branding side. Is it everything filters through Kyle Mitchell and you and your significant other, then that rolls down to your company? Or do you push your company out and that's how the investors get attracted?
Yeah, great question. And this is one that I've kind of struggled with, to be honest with you, but it's kind of a unique scenario for us where we just merged companies with my business partner. We had done our first 2 deals together under our own company names. We just merged companies because we like working with each other. We tested out, we went into the dating phase on our first 2 deals. We really like working together. So now we're under one umbrella. So it's a little bit different now. But I think I'm the face, he's the face as well, not the company. And we work with, or we own APT Capital Group. So we're always trying to get our faces out there, and really
like the podcast, for instance.
Yeah, exactly. So we're relationship based anyways, right? We want to know, like, and trust our investors just like they should know, like, and trust us. And so, you know, we're not APT Capital Group. We're Kyle and Gary who own APT Capital Group. And we want people to really know who we are.
Got it. Love it. Just drop, yeah, dropping bombs on that one. And gosh, in terms of, So additionally, you take down that first deal and then you move on to another one. What did the next deal look like from that one?
Yeah, 3 weeks after we closed on the first one, the law of the first deal, we got a $15 million deal, and this was over 100 units, and it was really in the space we wanted to be at. But a
Through
$15 million deal
through
is
brokers, or did you go off market? How did that look, Kyle?
yeah, pre-market, I would say. So one of the partners that was on our first deal had closed on a couple other deals in this market with the CBRE broker, and he sent it to him saying, "Hey, we're going to bring this out next week. Take a look. Let me know if you're interested." He has a W-2 job, so he sent it to me. I underwrote it that day. Me and my other business partner were out there the following day, and then the first day it went to market, we had it under contract. So it was about working quick. And then again, if I didn't have that partnership in that first deal, I would have never seen this deal until after it went to market, which probably would have been too late.
Got it. And also, you mentioned that your partner, or you already had the relationship with the broker, so the broker was willing to go with you because he knows you have the ability to close.
Yep, that and I mean, my other partner had closed 2 deals with them that year already, and that was only halfway through the year. So yeah, it was just a surety to close relationship that was built over the course of several deals, and that's what it takes in this business. Is continuing to build those relationships and also acting quickly. It's a hot market, even though we're going through COVID right now. It's still a very competitive market, and if you don't act quickly and you just let a deal sit on your desk for a week, if I would have done that in that scenario, we would not have gotten that second deal.
Got it. And in terms of partnership, and I know you go quite a bit into building a team, which definitely love that you go into that. How do you know from your standpoint of, let's say, your current partnership, who does what, and how you know what your strengths are and how to plug that person into your weaknesses and vice versa,
Yeah.
unless you're more on the philosophy of both people on strengths.
Yeah, no, we definitely plug and play where our strengths lie. And that was just getting to know the person. I mean, our business partners that we're partners with, we built a relationship with them for 7, 8, 9 months before we got into a partnership with them. We would drive out to our market, and our market is Phoenix and Tucson. So even in the example of driving to Phoenix, that takes 5 hours. We're going to tour properties all day. We're going to drive back. I was spending 16, 17 hours with my business partners, and you really get to learn, what type of person they are, which is extremely important, their work ethic, and where they're strong and where they're not so strong. And so building that relationship, even before we decided to go into a partnership, we knew each other's strengths and weaknesses, and then we just go there and plan it out from there.
Gotcha. Okay, understood. And how do you yourself personally determine what your strengths are and weaknesses, and what strengths could potentially actually be weaknesses that you believe are strengths?
Yeah, great
So,
question. It's trial and error a lot. First, I start with my strengths list being the things that I love to do, and what my training and background has been. My management and operations training is 15 to 20 years. Building budgets, managing people, implementing systems, and then my attention to detail. That's I'm OCD on a lot of those types of things. And so that's where I think my strength lies, is just the operations side of it. So, but it's just trial and error and being open to the idea that you're not good at everything, and allowing for constructive criticism to allow your mind to open up to the point where you can say, okay, this isn't my favorite thing, or I like this, but I'm not great at it. Either you got to get better or you've got to hand it off.
got it. And I like that you mentioned about willingness to accept the constructive criticism, because I've had that happen on something in terms of the management side. And I had someone, my partner, mentioned, "Hey, that's just not your skin," and I was like, "Okay." I had to let it sink in and not be one of those ego driven and, "Hey, let's get someone plugged into there."
Yep.
But it's just one of those things, is being, and this is something, is further understanding what those blind spots are. And sometimes you don't see the blind spots, and that's why they're blind spots. So it's good to have partners and building a team around you that can help with that.
Yep. Totally agree.
Yeah. So let's go into our rapid fire sharing round. Woo! Yeah. So what is one absurd or habit or thing that you love to do?
Oh man.
That's
Well,
just out there.
I don't know if it's out there, but I love to eat at expensive restaurants. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to do that recently, and it is a little absurd, but I just love um, food, the culture behind that food as well, and learning more about it. So,
Got it. And what is one common myth that you can debunk that often you hear in the industry?
yeah, I don't have enough experience to get started, or I don't have enough money to get started. Those two things are not real.
Got it. And the other one, what is one gift that has been most impactful for you in, let's say, your entire career or lifespan that's been under $100?
Hmm, man.
It's like looking around.
One of the things I got from Michael Blanc, actually, who was my coach when I first got started. I was just at a conference. I had no idea he was going to bring it up to me, and it's a financial freedom coin that he
A
gave to me.
coin? An actual coin?
Yeah, yeah, it's a thick coin, and it says financial freedom, and it's really cool. And to get it from him when I didn't expect it, it really, in my mind, it was confirmation that I was doing the right thing and I was moving forward. Because I think when you're an entrepreneur and starting your own business, it's really difficult to see the other side sometimes, because there's so many challenges that you face on a day in, day out basis. There's so many walls you hit that you have to break through. And so to get a gift like that from someone that, I admire and is my mentor and a coach without even knowing about it was pretty cool.
Got it. And the last question is, why do you believe we're here on Earth, Kyle?
I think it's to help other people and to give back. One thing that I've learned in my journey with multifamily is how much I really do enjoy helping others succeed in this business as well, whether it's from a passive investor side or an active investor side. I do these free calls with people where I'll talk to them about anything they want just to help them, because I got that help while I was growing. And really, it's really rewarding, and it just feels like you're doing something right. It's just helping other people along the way as you grow as well.
Got it. And last thing too is normally that's the last question, but I want to see, because mentorship has helped me a lot in my path. What has really helped you along having someone that mentored you and really showed the ropes?
Yeah, just being there to answer any questions that I have. I just think that sometimes when you get a coach or a mentor, it's very transactional. And so I'm really big on making sure you choose a coach that you can connect with one-on-one, because that person's going to be able to get you out of your comfort zone quicker and really push you forward. But you've got to find the right coach that's going to spend the time on what you need, because when it's transactional or very systematic, not everyone learns the same way or needs the same type of push. And so with the mentorship that we had, it was customizable, and it was customized to what we needed to allow us to grow.
Got it. Love it. And how can people find you, Kyle?
Yeah, right now we've got a free virtual asset management summit that we're promoting. And I think there's a huge gap in the market with getting your first deal. And then what do you do when you close, right? How do you manage that deal? How do you get the best out of that deal? So we're doing a free summit, amsummit2020.com. It's actually 14 days, some of the best speakers in the industry. And so we're really excited about that, because we want to help educate people on not just how to get your first deal, but what do you do when you have it under contract, right now, or when you close on it. Right now, going through COVID, the next 12 months, there's going to be a lot of people struggling with things. And we're going to be talking about the things that people are doing to increase their NOI and keep their investors' money safe.
Got it. Love it. And Kyle, I wanted to mention we're going to air this in 12/20. No, I'm just joking.
Well, hey, whenever it is. So if not, we'll have
Just
one in
kidding.
2021 as well. So
Okay. I'm just joking. Okay. All right. Perfect. Well, thanks so much for being on the podcast, Kyle.
yeah, thanks, Sterling.
Awesome. And those of you, as mentioned, that are on the YouTube, hit that subscribe button and notification bell. And if you haven't, you'll definitely want to go check out Kyle's podcast, which is the passive income through multifamily real estate. Keep being awesome, you guys. Thank you. Thanks for listening to The Real Estate Experience. If this has brought you any value, please subscribe and leave a 5-star rating. It would mean the world to me. Now go out there and crush it.